everybody. Welcome back. This is Mike Zaremba, and you're here with Andy and myself for another episode of Vancouver Real.
Hello, everybody. Nice to see you, or for you to see me, because I can't see them. It doesn't work.
Nope.
Yeah.
They're one-way cameras at this point.
Yeah, should we do the contest announcement right now?
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
First time we're doing this, so it's kind of a dry run, so forgive us for the lack of preparation. But we did a little contest on Facebook, and it was simply for a free haircut at Lisa's Chop Shop. And being respectful of people's privacy and this and that, I'll go with the first name. How about that?
Sure.
But we will contact you through the email address you have provided, and the winner of the free haircut at Lisa's Chop Shop is Brooks. And that's all I'm going to say for now.
Right.
But Brooks, we will contact you, and congratulations, you are the winner of the free haircut. And this is something we're going to be doing weekly, getting a little small prize. It could be, a 10-pack at a yoga studio. It might be some cold-pressed juice, whatever, something. And we want to give away a little prize during every episode. Yeah. So hopefully you'll tune in, and maybe you'll get a chance to win.
Awesome.
And that's all I got for now.
Well, thank you, Lisa, for donating that.
Yes, thank you, Lisa's Chop Shop.
And also, we are podcasting here, as per usual, out of Float House at 70 West Cordova Street. Float House is Vancouver's first commercial float center in over 20 years. We got 2 locations here in Vancouver, one in South Surrey, Victoria, and Langley is underway. It is roaring. We were just there the other day. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah, so
you live
Langley
out that
folks.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Yes, we will get you affiliated for sure. So check out floathouse.ca. Use the promo code YOGA, and you'll save 20% off a single float. You're welcome to use that as much as you want and share it, and let it go viral. That'll be fun. And finally, we'll give one final plug for Omega Point YouTube channel. Our brother from another mother, Omid. He runs this really cool online YouTube channel where he puts montages and voice clippings from like Terrence McKenna, Graham Hancock, Joe Rogan, Richard Alpert, all these cool guys. So like put these really powerful, who else? Alan Watts, and just to get people, thinking about culture, society, belief patterns.
Really? All my favorites.
You would dig it. So Omega Point YouTube channel, check it out. If you are looking to kind of go down the rabbit hole a little bit.
Plug the show.
What's that? Oh, right. Sorry. You don't have to whisper. You can just say it.
I don't know. I thought it might be funny.
And yeah, so VancouverReal.tv is our website. And if you do enjoy this episode or any episode, please give us a review on iTunes. It definitely helps us out. And share it around. So give us a review and rating, and we'd really appreciate that. So
and www.vancouverreal.tv is the site.
And now, moving on to a really exciting podcast. We have a great lineup of guests coming up in 2016, and this is definitely kicking it off for us with Satyen Raja. His website is satyenraja.com, and I mean, we're trying to figure out, okay, what does Satyen do? He does a lot of things, and it's not like we can't really put you in a box with words. I don't want to limit you, but from what I was able to kind of experience personally from watching you speak and your website and what have you, and some videos and stuff like that, you're a founder of your own companies, and the group of companies called the Warrior Sage Group, and within that you have a couple different streams that you work under. One of those is it's called Ignite Passion Now, which is what you do with your wife, Suzanne. And it says that your mission is to put a dent in the divorce rates by helping couples ignite passion and cultivate.
No, it used to be. Now we're trying to get them all divorced.
Oh, man.
Okay. Went the other way.
Sometimes it's healthy to split, unfortunately.
I think so many people are together, and it's flat, right? Mm-hmm. And the only way to have it, become more provocative on all levels, right, is to go deeper. And to go deeper, you got to be able to be more bare, more real. You got to be able to surf beyond the surface of everyday relating, right? Surface relating, and to do that can be a risk because we're alienating ourselves from the mass. Right? Our gravity is deeper. We'll be shunned, seen as something different, seen as, oh, look at them, weird, look at them, they're emanating, oh, look at them with their positive thinking or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, it can be a little bit scary that way for sure. If you're putting yourself out there and really being vulnerable. Yeah. This is, sorry, I had to just jump in with this one real quick. But I watched this little cool documentary that you kind of turned me on to, and is Ram Dass speaking about the Siddha. What was his name?
Neem Karoli Baba.
Yes.
Neem Karola Baba.
Yes.
And he told this really, really cool story. And the story was, Ram Dass had these secrets that he didn't want anybody to know, because he thought if people knew these secrets about him, that people wouldn't love him. And he said when he sat with Sita Karoli Baba,
Neem Karoli Baba,
that he knew his secrets already, and he still loved him.
Yeah.
Which was amazing. Crazy stuff. It was crazy. And it seemed legit. Like, when you watch things like that, you're like, is this guy really, but you can tell when somebody's being authentic,
And this is kind of definitely related to your work, because like you also work with a lot of leaders, CEOs, presidents as kind of like a mentor and coach and people ask like, who is he? I'm like, well, he's kind of like an empowerment coach, because you go beyond, I'd say, the stereotypical elements. Like you definitely bring a heart spiritual thing to it, and I think that's rare for this position, and that's why I think you're really unique in what you do. And this is what we kind of want to dive into a little bit with you today, is like, from your voice, what is it that you do with people when you're working with them? And obviously it's going to vary from person to person, but in a nutshell, kind of break it down for us. What do you try to do?
Well, the essence is when I'm working with leaders of companies, leaders of organizations, these type of individuals, they really don't need anyone. They're self-empowered already. They've made it to their position, their stature in life, because they've put in a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication, a lot of continuous study, mastering themselves and not falling off of that, but continuously honing themselves. So that's already inherent in them. But there's something that tends to be missing, and that's a sense of equilibrium. We can try to balance our time, balance our life, the idea of balancing the wheel of life, these ideas, very wholesome. But really, the application of it is rare to see at that level of effectiveness. So paradoxically, when one is very effective in life, very powerful, they've gained units of power in their system. Their root chakra is grounded. They don't ever feel in themselves like, I will lose out on things. They feel if I was able to be dropped in the middle of some country without any idea of anything, that within a year I could be thriving.
So lack of fear, or
lack of a deep sense of self-resourcefulness, an immediate self-resourcefulness, right? When one has that can blind other parts of ourselves. That thrust, that continuous propelling ourselves forward, right? Because we have to. We've got that type of, the leaders have that type of energy. But there's a depth that's lacking.
So you're saying that they're so self-reliant, they're the type that is just going to plow through.
Yes.
And they're okay with that. And they probably will be okay.
Yes.
But where's the blind spot?
But what happens is there's balancing forces that happen somewhere within one spectrum of being. So the balancing force can happen. So if I'm driving very hard in business, which we all tend to do as entrepreneurs and people who want to make big changes and big things in the world, and who actually also to attain our own freedom, to live the lifestyle we wish, right? And to have that magnified. That takes a type of power to move above and beyond the morass, above and beyond the ordinary. You have to be able to move against the grain. But if you move against the grain by pushing, which is what we've been taught with this hyper-masculine disposition, then what tends to happen is that we suffer in our relationships. I have. I almost lost my wife, my 2 kids, because, I was, creating multi-million-dollar companies, running rock star life, and here I am. Oh, hi, hon. Hi, kids. Like, what the heck? You know what I mean? I wasn't, watering my own garden. Right. So I had to unwind that, because the gain I made in this actually had a balancing force here in my health. I'm eating on the road all the time. My very passion, martial arts and health and coming into a type of wholeness, that passion of mine, I wasn't intending to. So that extreme achievement in one area has a balancing force. It could be in our spiritual dimension. So we're attaining or able to create freedom in the realm of experiences, generate experiences we wish, generate purchases as we wish, which is great, beautiful thing to have. No problem around that. But if there's this continuous longing for real freedom, then there's no purchasing of real freedom.
Yeah.
Would you say that longing for freedom that someone may feel, is that potentially signaling a gap or a disconnect from maybe like a spiritual connection?
You know, I actually consider it a calling, an invitation, a challenge. Mm-hmm. That's the way I look at it. Because the way I experience it is that our mission in life comes in stages, like with these Russian dolls, Ukrainian dolls. From the outside, we have this initial mission we're given from Mission Central. We live it out as best we can if we even try. If we try, we go, we fall flat, we grow from it, we get bruised up, we gain units of maturity, consciousness. We gain consciousness. When we fall flat after a while again, or we've done so well at it for years, after a while it'll have lackluster on all levels of being. You can try to pump yourself up, make it special, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But if it's units of evolutionary life force are sucked dry, it's done. There's that hollow feeling, and we try to fill it with distractions.
Absolutely. I would agree 100% with that. That's what
those distractions are typically external things.
Sex, money, and power.
Yeah.
Yeah, sex, money, and power. Those are the fundamental distractions.
Ones.
Those are the ones that give us a satiation, a nervous high, and they give our nervous sensation this erotic, exotic, continuous pump. And that, in a way, masks our awareness of our symbiosis with all existence. Because it's a particular pulse, that bombardment, and that keeping away from that pulse, that feeling of, holy shit, really? What's next for me? You know?
And, you're talking about a guy who, like you said, very grounded, very capable, can take care of himself, which is a great thing. But then it's like, okay, so you're plowing through, you're very yang, whatever you want to call that.
Yes.
And now, what areas of your life you're ignoring? How do you get back to that balance? Whatever that balance looks like for you, right?
Well, this is for everyone, right? This is all of us, right?
For anyone.
Yes. Yeah. Well, the first thing that I like to hunt for, right, is where there's charge in our system, in my system. Where is there charge in this company, in this organization? Which means where is there a lack of symbiotic flow? And that could be, withheld communications, suppressed emotions, unprocessed shit. You know what I mean? Holding grudges,
passive aggressive,
not moving on, passive aggressive, and all the list of 1,001 detriments that we inflict on each other on some level because of this particular contraction. So the contraction is usually caused by us being in a position, a stuck position. I am for this. I really believe in this. And then if you really believe in that, it creates an opposite in your space, in the universe, in your existence. It creates a polar opposite which has to manifest itself because of your adamancy in one position. And between those one adamancy, it has to appear as another adamancy against this one. And therefore, our adamancy or our importance that we've given things creates an excess potential in our system. An excess yang energy that gives us a temporary feeling of strength, but is sucking us dry in another way. Because whatever we're putting importance on is actually something that is draining our energy. So when we can start hunting for those initial ones, well, what pisses you off? What upsets you? What political movements? Oh, look at that politician. Look at this. You know, Facebook, my Facebook feeds are all designed for me to get emotionally evoked and pumped about something.
Right.
So sometimes I'll use it as a Zen practice of lowering the importance of, especially, and sometimes, obviously, I'm clicking on the things that I value. So I want to hear more about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Correct?
Yeah.
So, you know, I love animals.
It becomes that kind of confirmation bias a little bit there with your
Exactly.
own things, your own interests. Right?
Exactly.
One practice I've adopted is, you know, sometimes on Vancouver Real on our Facebook page, I'll post things that are a little controversial, and I'll also attach my opinion to it. So sometimes people will attack that opinion, and being okay with the fact that I'm being criticized and being like, okay, so I express my little viewpoint on that issue, whatever
Yes.
that happens to be. And then there's some people that are disagreeing with that issue. Some people that are actually even, you know, ad hominem attacks because I'm, you know, supporting a particular viewpoint.
Yes.
And maybe offend something in them. But not even deleting those comments, leaving them up and being like, okay, maybe there's something to what he's saying. Maybe I am an idiot. Maybe I should entertain the fact that I'm completely out to lunch on this subject. So I've let that kind of go, and it's been an interesting practice to let people or the internet or whatever you want to call it, social media, to self-correct me. Does that make any sense?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the way I look at that is it's a form of self-importance. And self-importance, I've found in my own life, bite my ass. You know, you get big in life, you get to attain a certain amount of freedom in your life and power and accolades and so forth. And you know how they say it can get to your head? Well, it can. And if it's not getting to your head, it could be just that you isolate yourself, or I did at least, in a certain way. You know what I mean? Put myself in a certain isolation and a certain self-importance. So, and it stung me. And that's what it'll always do, any form of self-importance. And for me, there's two types of self-importance to also look for in our field, in our being, that could be sucking our power as a leader. And the first form is the one that we know about, which is this, thinking very much of yourself, fluffing your feathers, adding more to the tail than what's there. It's the natural, look at me, bang my chest, that type of egoic expression of self-importance. So many of us know about being humble. But there's another side, a hidden side, which is just as powerful in deflating one's personal energy as a leader. And that's the side of excessive humility.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I can see where you're going with that.
Right?
Yeah.
It's, oh, yes, I am here for the purpose. Oh, yes, I am here for the big mission. Oh, yes, I am here for the big religion. Oh, yes, I am here for the big company. Oh, yes, please let me throw myself on the ground while you walk over me.
Playing it safe, staying safe with whatever you're going to say. I'm going to be extra humble, extra whatever, just to make sure I don't step on any toes potentially. I'm going to, if you have that extra level of humility, there's humility, but then there's also, it's like a deflecting or defensive humility almost.
Exactly.
Does that make sense?
Well, someone would be in that state, enter that state, if they had a negative experience in their life of someone being gregarious in their ego. And they said, and they made a decision in their mind, I will never be like that. Right? So when they feel those energies in themselves of any type of self-esteem growing, a sense of wholeness and I am me, this is my decision, this is my truth, my reality, and I own that without having to be gregarious, just in a grounded beingness way.
Maybe even unapologetically.
Yes.
Just being yourself.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So excessive feeling of, oh, how I'm the lowly one or how I'm the higher one.
Right.
Yeah. That's a difficult balance too. That's a difficult game, right? I mean,
You just have to be yourself and let others be themselves.
And allow both ways, right?
Yes.
And then finding that middle way of, and then do you find that, like, how do you find a compass to help you guide that, that middle path? What kind of things can you tap into, or maybe it's an external tool or an internal tool to help you kind of, where's my middle? Where is that balance?
Well, what I feel for in myself is a feeling of the comfort of my soul. So when I'm taking on a decision, a direction in life, something I need to contemplate, I'm feeling for the comfort of my soul, which could be a sense of warmness for me, somewhere in my heart, chest area. Solar plexus is how I feel it. Every one of us will feel it in their own way. So it's to feel for that comfort in the soul and the comfort and the inclusion and the unity of the mind. Sometimes we could feel it's a great idea in the mind, right? That makes sense on paper. That would be excellent. But somehow our inner inside, our gut feeling, our knowing, there's some, I don't know what it is. Or we assuage it or ignore it or just set it aside or crush it. Because the thought in the mind is so perfect that we can attain it. When that happens, there's always a balancing force. Because if it's not with soul and mind unity, it brings us into a sector of reality, a type of frequency of being where that disharmony gets magnified and magnified and magnified, and those polarities keep banging on yourself over and over, and you're the one creating them.
Yeah.
So what I feel for is the unity of the mind and the soul. We've been taught a lot of that. Don't listen to the mind. Just listen to the heart. Listen to the soul. Just listen to your inner being. No, we also have a mind in service of, a flowering out of the soul. So it has a relational capacity with reality that we need to not drop or push aside, as in some New Age circles would suggest, but to flower the full spectrum of our capacity.
I think that's a really interesting point. Finding that balance between your heart, and we had a pretty in-depth conversation about this the other day, actually. And it actually took place here. We had a nice ceremony on New Year's Eve here, and I guess the point I kept trying to come back to was that, of course you got to be in your heart, and the mind cannot understand that, but the mind is such a powerful tool. So it's like not just like getting out of it completely and saying, I don't want to think, I don't want to use it as for the tool that it is.
Yes.
And just only be heart. It's like both.
Yes.
And that was my whole thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now I think we're in an era now where we understand, a long time ago, the ancient traditions, the ancient wisdoms point to this time where beings were really in tune with their inner knowing, inner heart. We've all heard of this, right? And then we moved upward, right? Which is good. So now we can go to the stars and have these amazing interactions like this and connect with people around the world. There's no way we could do this before with such advancement. So now it's not a problem. It's not, people make too much of, the world's destroyed. No. We're not going to make it a problem. This is now the project. So now we dial that phase up. There's no equivalent dialing up of all sectors of reality at one time.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I think there's scales and scales of cycles that are existing in this reality that are so large that, because we're only here for 80 years or so, 90, 100 years, if we're fortunate, it's hard to see the big picture, right? So it's taken how many generations to shift from, maybe a heart, more being, connectedness of nature and kind of in that soul-rooted place. Now we've ascended to the mind, the age of the mind, and, had a crazy development of technology and communications. And now, there's been a huge focus on that.
Yes.
Now the heart is coming back into that. But you're right, this is going to take humanity to another level that has never happened that we know of, whereas mind and heart globally
Exactly.
connected and creating.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
I guess the question I have for you in terms of that, what are some tools that maybe you use or someone can use to help getting in that kind of heart-mind balance place?
Well, one of the things that I do is a method that we call accelerated evolution. And it's a mental, emotional, spiritual methodology that helps me look for where I'm holding this excessive charge in my system. And that charge is stored in 4 dimensions of our being to look for. It's stored in our images that we experience. So if there's some old upset or some charge, it's stored in our images, our thoughts, our emotional body, our emotions, our feelings, and then our body sensations. So what I do is I use this method to really, rather than just remove myself or try to get rid or change the state of the problem just by shifting my emotions, which is great, effective. When you need to go fast, you can do that. But this more elevates my awareness of the whole experience, why it came to be. It dissolves it at the root. So one of these days, we can have an experience sometime with everyone all together. And if you're open to, we can lead a simple duality integration experience.
I'd be very open to that. And I think we do little workshops with our staff from time to time as well.
Yes.
So there could be something right there that we
Absolutely.
dive into.
that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
cool. How now? I'm curious. I kind of have a level of understanding that you can only, especially in a position like you're in, where you are working with people to help them and to help themselves. You can only really take people as far as you've taken yourself, right? So can you kind of take us through a little bit of your journey and what's how you got to this position and how you're able to reliably help these already very successful people, but what took you to where you are today? Tell us just a little insight of that little journey for you, big journey.
Well, I was very blessed to have found very profound martial art teachers, kung fu masters, when I was a youth, 12 years old, and I entered a type of Shaolin monastic lifestyle, a mindset and a way of being, and it really helped me become a good, solid young man. And my teachers really infused in me really good values and sort of the ancient code of martial arts, which is to do less harm and to be of service and to help others help themselves. So I was very blessed to have that as a root, as a beginning phase, and awesome parents, East Indian parents, and we Gujarati East Indian parents. And I have one younger brother, and we grew up in my parents were serial entrepreneurs. So restaurant businesses, discotheques, variety stores, movie distribution, one thing to another. So I was introduced to my dad's talks and negotiations, and I got to see his joy in doing business and doing it artfully and doing it with fun, and his positive interactions with clients. He had a real, and he's retired now from business, but he had his style is very underneath the individual. How can I be of service to you without losing my power? So not making him weak, right? But please, I am here. You're in my disposition. You're in my service here. So I was very influenced by that, my mom. And then as I grew through the years in martial arts, I dove into Eastern philosophies, Indian philosophies, Zen from Japan, and I dove into Koan study. And then later in my life, I was very fortunate enough to come across a school of enlightenment called the Enlightenment Intensive Method. And it was a non-doctrine-based, no guru leader-based type process where we were given a simple refined Zen tool, Zen meditative tool, in an intense retreat setting for a few days, and it would produce kensho, Japanese, what they call satori, or the direct experience of truth without a via knowing, self knowing at its absolute way. So I was blown open by that. It brought me right to truth without having to get it from anyone.
Can we go into that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, what do you mean by going to truth? What does that mean? Like, people might be thinking that sounds ideal. What does that even mean?
Yeah, well, the first question that is asked on, in these searches for truth is, who am I? So we have a lot of understanding of who we already are, our name, where we're from, our birth, right? We can list off a lot of identities. In this philosophy, we say these are your identities, but there's an aspect of you that's transcendent, deeper, more original, and will last even after all your identities fall away, and was there before the accumulation of all your identities and your patternings and your habit stances and how you think of yourself. So this true nature is the awakening to this true nature. In Japan, they call it, in the Zen tradition, they call it kensho. And that's where you, the self, the absolute truth of who you are, become one. There's no observer, there's no reference, there's no duality, there's not the seeing the self and then the act of seeing. That all goes away. There's just knowing. You know it because you know it because you know it, and it's direct, and there's no how it got there. And then there's a type of release of ideas that were formed from your previous way of thinking. You start to see them fall away, and it looks really funny. And you can't believe how
these old belief patterns, like of our was saying, it's programs that are
some of them, not all of them, but some of them go away. Mm-hmm. And then, as one matures, if they allow themselves to mature, then they become just more real, the more who they are.
Yeah,
Vancouver real, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I can personally, and it's not that this happened, epiphanically in one moment, but I was recently in Peru and completed another retreat down there with ayahuasca, and definitely had an experience of knowingness that kind of goes beyond like, well, how do you know? And it's just like, you just know.
Yeah.
And that's not a good enough answer for the mind.
Yes.
It's not. But it doesn't matter.
Nor is sex.
Yeah. So,
some things you just got to experience, right?
Right. Exactly. And that's, so it's just interesting, and I do see how there's lots of different paths to get to that knowing of truth.
Yeah.
But and until you experience it, it's like, doesn't even exist. You don't know, but then it seems like something just keeps kind of pulling you to ask, to search, and to feel, and to see what happens, And for me, it wasn't easy at all, and it's still kind of unfolding for me. This is still pretty fresh.
Yeah.
But it's really amazing because you said there was a release, and granted, there's parts that things will still creep into my mind from time to time, but when I go back to where I was there and what I felt, and there's like a lightness now that I don't, it's really hard to explain, but there's a lightness that I can tap into, and it makes everything relatively okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, and it's I'm just so grateful that it happened, and I think there's more of it to happen too. I think there's a connection that happens there that you can, I don't know, it unfolds in front of you. You learn a lot from it as well as you go.
Yeah.
So
beautiful.
Yeah. No, it's so, and that's one thing we noticed with you. Well, we met the first time I came across you was at Spirit Plant Medicine Conference a couple of years ago at UBC that happens every year, and we support it through Float House in Vancouver Real, and he did a good talk actually about cannabis, And do you still have any current relationship with spirit plant medicines personally?
Well, that's interesting talking. You know how that was one of the branches of my dive-throughs years ago. Mm-hmm. I was in a very clean path, in this martial art path, very clean, very yogic, very eating perfect, no substances. Right. And I did that for many years, and I gained a lot of value from that. And I think the austere path is for most people, in my opinion. It's good. But people are waking up. And this is 2016, and the wisdom of the earth is yearning to get into us, and we're yearning to get with it, and it's all popping up all over the place. The wisdom of the earth is coming through. To me, all these particular things are the wisdom of the great mother, the earth, the essence of the she, arising and tapping on us. And the powers that fear the infusion of that earth wisdom, that's what's really at the root of this, and how it's all set up. But so my relationship with this started years ago with my one of my mentors, who was a crazy wisdom teacher, one of the most amazing wizards ever, and he took me on this mystical journey, and we were in Ireland. And I had never done any of this before, and we were in this forest with others. We had built a yurt, and wild horses were just roaming around and snorting through the tents in this yurt, and it's mystical, like wow, And he wakes us up in the morning, very early in the morning, and says, "Come out. There's a big pot boiling, and it's got these mushrooms in it." Now, I don't even know what they are, because I haven't even seen these things. To me, it's drugs, drugs.
Especially coming from the clear, no substance.
East Indian, very, Hindu, you know what I mean? All of that, right? So.
They're mushrooms, man. They're mushrooms. That's what's fucking crazy.
I know. So, well, there's validity, because there's mushrooms that kill you too. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah,
so, right?
Definitely.
So there is a caution, right? And I think there is truth to the fact that there's some people who can't handle this stuff. Their consciousness is a little too fragile. They need to work on more grounding themselves, getting their act together, getting their shit together, getting them solid in life before they do these things. Some people are so solid in their life, they need something to shake it at their cellular consciousness level radically, like a plant medicine can do. That can do faster than many, many things, and direct, and can bypass your choice after you've drunk it, it goes deeper than that, right? Yeah. So I had this profound experience. I looked at him, and he winked at me. He says, "Come on," He says, he winked at me, and he looked at me, and he said, "You're just a tight old Hindu, like self-absorbed, self-important, right-hand path, meaning the clean." Well, this is like at least 25 years ago or more, right? Cool. And then I looked at him, and I was like nervous as heck, right? Really nervous. But I did it. I drank, and then this is nothing. So we're walking out. There's like a few of us. We're walking the forest together. He's a shaman as well, and so this is a protected forest in Ireland, mystical little area, and it's, the ley lines and the energy fields have been very empowered in this space. There's been a lot of like really good uber woo stuff going on there for a while, raising the vibe, right? So we're there, we're blown open, start walking, and I'm like, there's nothing happening. Like, I don't feel anything. And then I see a tree, and I feel warm. I feel like I'm falling into something, like into a dimension. And I grab the tree, and I go, "Oh, Ma." Wow. Ma, like Ma, the mother, like I need my mother. It's the first thing I thought I saw was my yearning to just hold to my mother. And then I went right into the
experience.
the dimensions.
And then, there was non-organic beings that guided me through. There was a whole epic journey and life lessons, and there's different areas in the force that had different chakras and activation centers that different people were drawn to at different times. It was a whole activation journey. And the work that I had done in the enlightenment intensives, the if you will, medicine journeys, this meditative Zen method, what that had done was ground me in my eternity. So the blend of both blew me open. So I was in this grounded space. So I wasn't caught up in the tumultuousness. I was now the beingness that's the observer of all this radical, infinite existence raining down in through me. And so that's carried through. It's just really at some level that opened and it's never shut.
Do you find any value in reconnecting in that way periodically?
When they call me, I answer.
Yeah.
That's how it feels to me.
Yeah.
When they call me. So now in my life, much less.
Sure.
There was a time when I first started 25 years ago, I dove right into it. I was blown away. I was like, yes, there's profound gifts to come from that clean world. And I'm not even calling it clean anymore. I'm just calling it from the
substance taking world.
Yes. And then there's profound lessons to come from the other side as well. Because it's a different psycho-spiritual, different aspects of journey. And to poo-poo one or the other is one thing. To integrate them both, I think, is symbiosis. Next level now.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to that documentary I mentioned earlier with Sita help me out.
Neem Karoli Baba. It's okay.
Neem Karoli Baba. Anyways.
What's that?
You'd probably have a hard time saying her name too.
Yeah, you probably will. Right. It's not about the name; it's just about my short-term memory. That's more what it is. But
you should smoke pot more.
I probably should. Yeah, maybe tonight after. Anyways, Ram Dass brought strong LSD, and he had never done it. The Siddha had never done this before, so Ram Dass had one himself, and the Siddha apparently took 8 of them, and they were strong, and nothing happened to him.
That's insane.
What is that? How do you explain that?
When you know who you are, and it's who you are under any state of consciousness. The self is the self, but the state of consciousness is what shifts. Right. The self that you are is the self that you are under any state of consciousness. I'm conjecturing, I'm not him, but if my sense is that from my own experience is that when you're just settled into who you are, and then you bring that forth in every day, right? You don't go in with a whole set of charades and a whole set of self-importance. Oh, look at me, here I'm meek, or look at me, look, I'm tough now. You settle more into the self, you bring that forth, and then what I've noticed, everything starts to change.
Yeah. So I guess it kind of brought me to your point of once you've been there a few times, or if you've done that work, you don't have to do it as often anymore, or maybe not at all.
Or is the work every day because you're being that self?
In terms of work, I'm talking about actually taking something.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
I think there's good phases for certain people if there's right tutelage and they've got good examples and good leaders. And I was very blessed to have guides who were masters, spiritual masters and well trained and experienced in this. Not everyone has that at their disposal, right? So I feel that if one is new to this type of realm or has a desire to go in it, they should seek out people who have real credibility in this. Don't go to the next part. Don't try it at your home. Don't do any of that. To prepare even cannabis, even something that's considered recreational, I was taught how to use this through this very profound spiritual friend of mine, enlightened realizer and mystic. He was a mystic. He's passed on now, and his name was Aha. And we would sit and he would read esoteric books and we would share cannabis. And I would do it with him while he would read and then share eternal truths in a way that would undo my mind and then get me to realize truth. Like just wake me up in a certain way. These readings and our discussions were really profound. And I feel with the intention we bring to anything, whether it's chocolate or business, being a husband, being a wife, being a lover, being a father, being smoking cannabis, drinking a beer, eating meat, eating vegan. It's our intention, the source of our truth that we're emanating from, which is what's really valuable. Where are we generating our decisions from? What surface or depth of our being are we sourced in day by day, moment by moment? And I found for me, freedom is at the deeper and deeper levels. And that paradoxically opens the three-dimensional world into more fluidity, radiance, flow, easefulness. Things come to us. Things come. Not the force of attraction, just your eternity becomes the magnet. Your freedom, the fact that you're sailing through life with less importance, taking care of your body, you're taking care of your love life, you're treating yourself as a sexy being, you're owning your sexuality, you're owning your fucking power, you're making no compromise, you're dialing in your tolerances. I will tolerate this, I don't tolerate this anymore, in self and others, in team. Hey team, this is how I create my teams. When I'm doing cultural work for organizations, what I do is I look at what are they tolerating, what are they not tolerating, what are they, what's the source of their intention? Is there all these different types of intentions running the place? And if so, how can we get them all aligned? It's that ultimate symbiotic alignment at the soul level, I feel, is the key to our personal and societal transformation.
Yeah. I think you're definitely onto something there for sure. I had a question pop up, and Mike and I were discussing this last night at dinner, actually, and it's about the idea of destiny, I guess. Do you believe in destiny? Do you believe that, you are where you are because you're meant to be there, kind of thing? Does that make any sense at all?
Yeah, I understand what you're
saying.
So
it's like, how much free choice do we actually
free
really
choice
have?
Versus destiny.
There you go.
The eternal question. Okay, one day we got to get together, and I'll take you through a process which will awaken that in you.
Okay.
Right? Your own truth around it. So I'll share my philosophical idea around it, but that has got nothing to do with the truth, okay?
All right. Yeah.
I like this.
All right. So let's get that on the table.
This is one of my big ones, actually. This particular question. Free will versus destiny.
Here's my experience of it. Okay? This is my experience of it, not my mind around it. That we are in a sea of infinite realities right fucking now. No shit. Infinite. Or close to infinite. Well, not close to infinite, but infinite. Bigger than any type of human comprehension. This particular snapshot of this moment has a stream, has a destiny that's all laid out. I cannot change anything within that destiny at all. So in this moment, all of a sudden, the worst thing that happens, a ball comes up in my throat, I choke to death. This becomes the most controversial podcast of all time. You guys become famous, filling my death, and then, we make a joke out of it, because that's what I would want, all right? So, but
Awesome.
So that's one destiny that's there. Another one is, all of a sudden, a comet comes down, it opens up above our head, crystalline light falls down, and goddesses wrapped in divine nectar that conform to your sexual desires and your spiritual awakening. They like lasso it out of you. They just show up. So there's a sector where there's that universe, but it's so far away from this one because the relativity to our current one to that one is many stages over. What would be closer is one with maybe I have more hair, you have less hair. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yep.
So the destiny in one sector is absolutely done.
The deterministic point of view.
Yes. Yet we as infinite realities, infinite beings, have the capacity to hop to the next sector, or to the next one, or to the next one. And we're doing it unconsciously all day long through the unity of our soul and mind. So if there's shit we don't like, right? You're complaining about some politician or something you read on the news or something, right? You're complaining about it. It's like irritating you, getting underneath your skin. You get that justice feeling pop up, right? So now that energy is there's a mind and soul unity around it. You get transferred to a reality which has all of that drama in it to keep reinforcing the truth of that drama. You get it?
I get it.
The more you disengage from the importance that you're given those things, and now you're feeling for comfort, it's easier for the soul and mind to come together under distress. Fuck, I gotta move. Let's go. Flight and fight, right? That's when it all comes together. Right? When we need it, it happens, right? Most of us are capable of getting our act together when we need to. And so, but it's to do it in the space of no importance. So that's the Taoist journey.
Right.
That's the ancient yogic journey. This world is ephemeral. This is what they're all pointing to. The plant medicines, all these things.
So that call to action, taking action, but removing that kind of reactive anxiety, anger, whatever emotional response you might have to that. Unconscious response, maybe.
You know, if you try to squash the emotions, is one thing. That's repression. If you realize the root of the evoked emotions is attributed importance in the first place,
then
it's not about healing the anger. It's about dissolving the importance at its root.
Yes, that makes so much sense.
It's a subtler awareness. It takes a deeper inward reflection.
Yeah.
Right? It takes an inwardness. It's like beyond mindfulness. It's like importantness.
So your emotions are like a barometer.
Yes.
Telling you what's working for you, what's not working for you.
If you follow that path, then all of a sudden, after a while, after a few days, weeks, it becomes ecstatic. Whatever you start feeling, your soul and mind unity starts bringing you to sectors which are now resonant with that soul and mind unity. So you get more of the golden vein, more synchronicity, more symbiosis, the things that you're yearning for in your soul. The right people show up, the opportunities show up. And then when they do, this is the cincher, one must act.
Okay, so that leads me into my next question.
You follow me so far?
Definitely, yeah. Law of attraction, the secret kind of stuff.
Yes.
You know, how much do you believe in that?
Well, I think it's a fundamental. Like I think, in jiu-jitsu, there's beginner level, and then you move up. So I think it's a great fundamental piece. I think to get people to see that their thoughts actually have a reflection on their reality. So I think those things are very valuable. But there's some people where that's pablum now, and they're ready to move on, right?
Yeah.
So, for those who've got that fundamental knowing, listen, I'm not perfect in my thoughts, but I got to monitor them and not start spewing bullshit in my head. That's not law of attraction. That's basic psychology. That's common sense. That's like, don't be an asshole. Don't make your life, bullshit within your own head space. Right? So this doesn't require some esoteric dive. It requires the desire to be happy.
Yep, it's true.
Right? The fundamental desire to be happy. And to be happy, we just got to see the lot of what we have generated and created is based on a lot of other people, what they found important. And then what you latched yourself onto, making important too.
Opinions of teachers, parents, whoever.
All of it.
Right?
All of it. Good and bad. The whole thing's got to be put on the table and looked at. And when it's looked at, then I feel there's a units of free choice and capacity come back to oneself, is what I've experienced. What I see in all the amazing men and women I get to guide and mentor and coach, they're like accomplished, and then within a matter of getting this and really searching and hunting in for their charges, their unconscious dualities, going through this journey of evolving themselves spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically, what happens is like the number one complaint is, what do I do with my time? That's a frickin' good complaint this day.
Yeah.
What do I do with my time?
Yes.
Complaint.
For a successful person,
Right.
their time is always being sucked, pulled on. They can't stop it even if they try. When they're at work, they're thinking of family. When they're with family, they're thinking of work.
Yeah.
They're not rested in the moment. So this is what gets done. So that's what I take people, when they start releasing that, all of a sudden, equilibrium starts to happen. And I feel when the equilibrium starts to happen in our life, we become more fluid through our capacity to move through these infinite spaces, moment to moment, not based on habit stance, but based on awareness of one's humanity and infinity simultaneously.
And this is the type of work that you kind of facilitate with.
Yeah.
Your
You know, the next question I have for you off the bat would be, all right, so much of the doers of the world, the business people, the athletes, the scientists, whatever field they're in, like I can really resonate with what you're saying, and it makes a lot of sense to me. But so many of that kind of the doer society, whatever you want to call them, that group of people, just it's not on the radar at all. They don't want to hear it. I don't know. Like,
Yeah, well, for sure, because why would you want to put down the tools that have made you successful? It would be stupid of a warrior, of an accomplished person to put down the tools that made them successful. You're going to hold on to them till the day you die. And some promise of a more easeful or more equilibrium-filled life can sound poetic and beautiful and so forth, but who the fuck wants it when so many drivers and so many things keep you in the race of having to do it? But there's some people out there who are like sick and who are like, you know what, there is another way. They've done it. They know that they can continue to create what they want. But it's like there's a call for equilibrium. And I think it's universal right now, if you ask me. I think those who are not heeding and feeling the call that's coming from Mother Nature, from Earth, from our own inner environment for equilibrium, we're going to suffer. And the ones that are listening to the call of equilibrium within our being are the ones that are going to be in symbiotic, homeostatic relationship, which is always the highest form of personal and societal health. Micro, macro, it's all the same.
And you think that sort of that connection, that awareness, that energy will permeate all elements of someone's life?
Yeah, it starts to, it grows. But then you got to stay on it. You know, like I surround myself with coaches. Myself, personally. You know? It's like, I don't need, you know, like I'm pretty self-propelled, but I find, listen, if I don't surround myself with people who can see beyond what I can see, then, you know, it says in the I Ching, it's a book of wisdom from China, thousands of years old. One of the principles in there is that the superior man or the leader becomes blinded if their counsel he seeks is only from within his own circle. Because they're all only can see and say, and ultimately he's only seeing with his own eyes. But the superior being is one who brings sight from outside themselves. So I like to always surround myself with feminine forms of coaching, masculine forms of coaching, because I believe that that relationship of learning and serving, leading and following makes us whole. It keeps the self-importance. You said, how do we deal with that? That's one of the ways. Guide, help, learn, like teach with whatever, however you can in your own way, make a difference. And learn, absorb, be new, fresh. Both simultaneously.
You got to have both. And that's the other thing I think so many people fall into a little trap of is getting into a group of some type, and you get that confirmation bias going on in that group. So it's going to be self-fulfilling, like in a religion or whatever, a sports team. It could be any kind of organization. They get this confirmation bias, and then they all just keep going in that direction, and there's nothing stopping that momentum, That
becomes a pendulum. It becomes a type of energy sucking mechanism when it becomes strong enough where it demands and seeks adherence. We want you to be our adherent, like a Nazi party, some crazy party. We want you to be this. We want you to, it's
like a cult following.
Exactly, whatever it is, right?
Whatever, yeah.
And
same thing, actually.
And the thing about those type of movements, pendulums, it creates the opposite. It creates people who are against it. Down with that, Down with that. We're down with that. And that down with that adds fuel to that side. And both those fuels bring those two types of people into a sector where there's a lot of that going on. Mm-hmm. They just float into there where there's more of that. So they go into destinies where there's gloom, doom, and all of that. So is there a truth in the conspiratorial worlds? I feel, yes, that there's these particular type of machinations, and not everyone with wholesome intent. I mean, you don't need to go how up the ladder. It could be just in the back next door. You know what I mean? So it's like there's that, but then there's a place right over there where you, I, me, and we are living in ecstasy and free. And our lifestyle has nothing to do with the government, has nothing to do with politics. Our lifestyle has nothing to do with what's going on with the economy anywhere. What if we can create our own lifestyles and our ways of relating in the world and earning in the world that are not so functional on outside, not so much based on all of that. Mm-hmm. Some of it has to be, of course, but
right. I think it's super interesting. I think the freedom of information now provided by internet is facilitating that sort of reorganization, if you will.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's a trend that you'll see continue. People will be kind of like, hey, we can kind of manage ourselves more independently and less reliant on things, but you're right. But I think everyone's still. I think ultimately the best. My vision, idealism is like everyone. No one gets left behind.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Is that possible?
Is it possible?
Is that possible with what you just said about the whole, momentum creating another, a balance to that?
Well, it's like, can that happen? Yes, I feel there's sectors with that.
Right.
For sure. And I feel there's the whole idea of left and right is a universal thing. There's some people who hate Ayn Rand and some people who love that type of philosophy. One is, libertarianism, that type of, experience of where, listen, I am self-resourceful all unto myself. I do not want to, nor should we be underneath any type of, if the person's fucked up or they need help, let their own family help them. There's truth in that. There's truth in it. If there's truth in, let your people deal with that. Let me deal with my people. There's a value in that. Let me take care of my strong. We can only get strong if we're strong ourselves. Then we can help others if we can help them. How can we? So there's virtue in that side, I feel. But there's also virtue in the other side, which is, oh my God, now that we have created enough freedom and look, we can eat and feed ourselves and live warm. How should my fellow men and women and children and fellow countrymen should they suffer from abject poverty or suffering? We as a society can make it so no one suffers these extremes. So there's valiant heart truth that we must all for one for all. I mean, that's the extreme of communism in its intention, in its unfolding. May not work out that way.
Yeah.
But what's one of the things I heard a joke was like, what's the difference between communism and what's the opposite of communism?
Socialism.
No, not democracy. Capitalism. What's the difference between democracy? Or sorry, communism and capitalism. Well, in one system, man takes advantage of the other, and in the other one, it's the exact opposite.
Which is man takes advantage
of the other.
Yeah.
Both systems.
I'm reminded of a little quote from Joe Rogan. Not his quote, but I heard this from him about that exact kind of idea, and that is that black cat, white cat both catch mice.
Yes.
So two different ideologies, but they're kind of doing the same thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I feel this is the time where we can actually unify these. And we can open up to the wisdom of that full spectrum rather than be in opposition, because the opposition is a magnification. The system continues to create this oppositional energy where they're fighting with one another, trying to break down one another. And so therefore no side can drink of the wisdom of the other.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone who seems to be more in the middle is considered a wimp or weak because they're gleaning the best of the best and trying to come to a middle ground so that the whole country can prosper. So it's a paradox, you see? It's a funny thing. I think it can only be solved at the soul level, at the individual level, at the level of awakening, at the level of finding true equilibrium, centered, like symbiotic relationship to my plan, when I'm eating, when I'm wearing, knowing about it, just knowing where the bricks come from my house.
Right.
That's it.
Having a conscious relationship with everything.
Everything. Where did this come from?
Right.
Yeah.
Where did it come from?
Yeah.
The stuff I'm eating. Where does it come from? How was it made?
I don't know.
This is like a George Carlin moment.
If I was trapped in the woods by myself for all of eternity, I could never create this thing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But I hate to do this, but I got to run.
I know.
If you guys want to continue, by all means, it's up to you. But I got to get going. Or do you want to wrap it up? It's up to you.
Oh, we'll wrap it up. It's fine. I mean,
okay.
How long has it gone for?
We're at hour 7, which is pretty good.
7?
Yeah, we've done good.
Yeah,
it's good.
I mean, but this go all night.
This is Satchian part 1.
You guys should come over to my house and do a mobile one. We'll go into my sanctum sanctorum.
Okay, we can do that. We've done it before.
Or even in a hot tub.
Sanctum sanctorum.
Or in my hot tub or in my sauna.
Oh yeah, I'll do either or. Yeah, let's do it. Well, we've done a couple mobile podcasts.
Maybe we'll do a little plant medicine there, and then we'll do something together. Yeah, some mushrooms and some cannabis or both. And,
a variety of medicines to work with,
and good food and good energy.
Good space.
Sounds great.
Yeah,
cool.
You guys are awesome. I really enjoyed being here,
Great.
and thank you for asking real questions and deeper ones. Usually most people ask me surface stuff, and
the nice thing is we have the luxury of freedom to talk about and have the time. There's no
that's podcasting, man. You can say
you
can talk about whatever you want. That's the beauty of it.
That's awesome.
Yep. It's powerful. So thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it. For everyone listening at satyenraja.com, spelled SATYENRAJA, satyenraja.com. So please go and check it out. His content and what he's all about there. And thank you again, man.
You're welcome.
We'll do it again.
You're welcome.
Cool.
Yep.
Awesome.
VancouverReal.tv.
VancouverReal.tv.
If you like what you heard today, jump on.
I should let you guys know my group of companies. And that's
yes, please.
WarriorSage.com.
Okay.
WarriorSage.com.
WarriorSage, so most people can see what we're up to there.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Thank
yeah.
You.
And
we'll
again,
have all the links in the feeds and everything. So check them out. Cool.
All
Till
right.
next time.
Till next time. To whatever is.
Whatever is.
To this moment and beyond.